What's going on, everybody? Dr. Nathan Thompson here with Exemplify Health Center, your Wellness Way affiliate right here in Yorkville, Illinois. Happy Saturday morning, guys. I hope you guys are having a great start of your weekend. I'm going to be honest with you. I am tired. I'm actually exhausted. So last night, Dr. Patrick Flynn came down. We had the Hormone Connection event here in Yorkville. And it was a really, really long day for myself. Actually a little bit longer than for even my staff. So it was probably about a 15-hour day, and then we had to turn around, and I actually did see some patients this morning. So I apologize if I'm running a little bit low on sleep and I look a little bit haggard, but it was actually an awesome event. Dr. Patrick came down from Green Bay. Delivered an unbelievable hormone connection seminar. People were blown out of the water. In fact, even for me, I listened to it multiple times. I'm always blown out of the water. So he does such an awesome, fantastic job as far as just making the connection between health, between hormones, and actually how you actually can test the hormones properly. And this actually goes for men and for women as well. And people were just absolutely blown out of the water because they just say this. It just makes so much sense. And that's what we do, guys, in the Wellness Way is we really just help you to make sense of what's going on. But guys, we're always coming from a different perspective. And if you don't see things from a different perspective, then you'll never be able to solve your health problems. Because just remember, guys, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, infertility, menopause symptoms, chronic pain, weight gain, all of these things are just becoming worse and worse and worse. And yet we somehow think that we just need to keep doing the same thing, which is actually the definition of insanity. So, guys, this is why, when people say, oh, you must be a hormone expert, not really. All we actually do is just understand physiology inside of the body. So we are masters of physiology, but also coming from a different perspective. And the perspective that we're coming from is that the body will never make a mistake. Everything that happens in the body is the body trying to adapt, and it's the body trying to survive. And yes, sometimes when that happens, you're going to have undesirable symptoms as the body tries to adapt to specific things that are going on. So today, what I want to go over with you is I want to show you a different perspective, because I've had this question asked a lot, okay? Dr. Nate, why did I lose my sense of taste and smell after getting COVID? Maybe I should block that out right there, because I don't know if Facebook even allows that anymore. You'll see actually that Facebook is actually, if we talked about this maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, this video probably would get deleted pretty quickly, and I probably would lose my Facebook account because there's just certain things they don't allow if it doesn't fit the current narrative. If you've been paying attention underneath the surface, you'll see why they're starting to allow some of these things because of certain emails and things like that have been leaked. All right. So let's talk about why someone might have lost their sense of taste and smell. And the other thing is Dr. Nate, it's been 3 months, 4 months. Why didn't I get it back? Okay. And I'm going to just show you guys this from a very, very simple perspective. But I'm also going to say that if you did in fact lose your taste and smell, it's actually pretty significant that I'm going to say you have some pretty significant underlying problems and issues going on, because who I'm going to describe that actually is going to be deficient in certain things that can lead to a loss of taste and smell when you have an infection, it's actually a bigger problem that's actually developing underneath the surface. So when I tell you this, I know a lot of people are just going to say, oh, I just need to take this. But ultimately, there's a lot of other issues that are actually going on. And so I'm going to show you really from a Swiss watch perspective why these things are actually happening. And also some things you really got to pay attention to, because losing your taste and smell when you have an infection is really a warning sign that there's some much deeper issues that are actually going on. Now, is it actually COVID? All right. So guys, what I'm going to go over with is going to blow you out of the water. Please make sure right now, make sure that you give me a thumbs up and make sure you share this, okay? So is it actually COVID? The reason is COVID has some kind of special brain that knows how to attack your sense of taste and smell, okay? And no, I'm going to tell you this. A virus doesn't have a brain. In fact, a virus isn't even living tissue, okay? It doesn't actually attack you because we are actually exposed to trillions of viruses every single day. In fact, they don't even know how many different types of viruses are out there. You go swimming in an ocean, and you swallow some ocean water, you probably just swallowed trillions of viruses, okay? And so it's not necessarily COVID. It is, the thing that is unique with COVID is actually what it actually attaches to, okay? What it actually attaches to in order to enter the body. So guys, viruses actually can only attach to certain receptors on certain types of cells. So some of them are actually within the lungs, some of them are actually within the gastrointestinal system, and that's why it's the method of transmission. So I'll give you an example. So COVID, its method of transmission is through ACE2 receptors, which are primarily in the lung, which is why it's a respiratory virus. You also have some ACE2 receptors in the gastrointestinal system. You have some ACE2 receptors actually on the ovaries as well. You have ACE2 receptors, but most of them are actually going to be in the lungs. If you take something like polio, for example, polio's method of transmission is really through the gastrointestinal system, and that's why the method of transmission for that specific virus is fecal to oral, okay? You guys got to understand, it's not that easy to transmit polio unless you are going to the bathroom, wiping, and then not washing your hands, and then, having somebody lick your fingers, or you're preparing food, all right? So yes, hand washing is actually important, all right? So let's talk about this. Why did I lose my taste after getting COVID? Now, just remember, it's not privy to just COVID. It's actually privy to the infection, okay? This is really important. So I'm going to give you the answer, and then I'm going to go backwards, and I'm actually going to tell you why. Why did I lose my taste and smell? And the reason why is because you were deficient in a mineral known as zinc, okay? You were deficient. Here's the thing with minerals, okay? It's very hard to measure minerals. And I will actually make this statement is that many times initially when working with people, we actually will tell them, guys, you got to just get your minerals up. My goodness. And there's a lot of different reasons why people are so deficient in minerals, and I'll actually show you why. But zinc is a mineral, magnesium is a mineral, potassium is a mineral, sodium is a mineral. These things are just vital in order to carry out body functions. Like even if you look at magnesium, I mean, it's involved in like 1,000 different cellular functions. But if you're trying to measure it in the blood, it's really impossible, because really where you actually are utilizing things like zinc, magnesium, potassium, and things like that is within the cell. And so you're not going to get an accurate representation of actually your zinc levels or magnesium levels, potassium levels, sodium levels within the blood, because just remember is that is very tightly regulated, but you can't measure actually how much is within the cell, and that's where most of that is being used within the cell. Why did you lose your sense of taste and smell when you got an infection? And the reason why is because you needed zinc. Zinc, I'm going to go over the functions of it, is critical for a lot of different things, but also for an immune response. So what happened? I want you to think of how the body works and how magnificent it actually is. So I want to ask you a question. Which is most important? Is that if you are trying to mount an immune response and an inflammatory response to an infection, what is more important? To use that zinc to fight the infection, or to use the zinc to be able to repair the skin that is involved with your taste buds, or the skin in the nose that's involved with actually smell? So what's more important, living or tasting and smelling? And I already know that you guys know the answer. So you guys understand the body will divert nutrients in order to keep you alive. That's how so amazing the body actually is. So why did I lose my taste and smell? Well, you guys need zinc in order to build the epithelium, with the taste buds, build the epithelium. By epithelium, I actually mean the skin, because your tongue actually has a layer of skin, and also in through the nose. And so if you need to mount this immune response, it says, you know what, we don't need this right now, but what we do need is we need to actually start mounting an immune system response. Isn't that awesome? So there are a lot of people who then had an infection and they lost their sense of taste and smell because the body needed that zinc, the immune system needed the zinc in order to mount an inflammatory response in order to be able to kill off the virus, or I should say, kill off the cells that are actually infected with the virus, okay? So here's the functions of zinc. Number one, you need zinc for immune system function, all right? Now, guys, let me tell you something. They didn't even discover what zinc did until about the 1950s or 1960s, all right? So you understand is that they didn't even know what it did for a really long time. And in fact, a lot of things when they are looking at minerals and when they're looking at specific things, they are still discovering the functions of it even to this day. And this is why I will always say, listen, I am not going to talk to you in absolutes. And the reason why is because many of the things we know about the body, I'm going to say, we always say it's only 3 to 4%. And then it always stays at 3 to 4% because we keep learning more about the body, and then we quickly discover how much we don't know about the body. This is what drives me nuts, is when you have people who are talking about nutrition, or people are talking about vaccines even, and they're saying it's safe and effective and we know this. No, you don't. Look at all the different medications that they said were safe and effective, pulled off the market 10 or 15 years later to discover that it was absolutely decimating people's body. And I can go on and on and on about all those different medications that were considered safe and effective. Thalidomide, Vioxx, Bextra, these arthritis medications, different type 2 diabetes medications. So you guys understand, every single drug that was taken off the market was first approved as safe and effective according to the FDA. And so you guys have to understand is that even when it comes to things like minerals and things like that, they still don't know what exactly it's doing into the body. But here's what we actually do know. We do know that zinc is critical in order to build immune function, okay? Zinc is also critical for blood glucose regulation. So in order for you to be able to regulate your blood sugar. So think of people who can't regulate their blood sugar, and you actually fast, you pull the blood, their blood sugar is still 120, 130, 140, 150, and the doctor says, yes, you are in fact type 2 diabetic. Zinc is actually needed for bone remodeling, okay? So in order for you to be able to break down your bones and remodel them, which is actually something you need to do all the time in order to reorganize the scaffolding of your skeletal structure, you need actually zinc. This is also needed for wound healing. This is what's interesting. Why is that? Well, because when you think of wounds, wounds are on the skin. So where do you have skin? I would not call it skin, but we call epithelium. So this is actually types of tissue that forms a barrier from internal to external environment. So I want you to think, yes, your actual skin, but yes, your tongue, yes, within the nose, yes, the lining of the lungs, and yes, the gastrointestinal system. And this is why people who are so zinc deficient can actually have a lot of gastrointestinal issues. And in fact, I want you to think of this. Zinc deficiency is a huge cause of death worldwide every single year, and nobody is talking about it, okay? It's also needed for testosterone production. It's needed for repair of your DNA, because just remember, you living, you breathing, you exercising, you processing food and things like that, it puts an oxidative stress on the actual cells. So just think, in your cells you have a fire that's going on, and occasionally, just because it's actually creating energy, thermogenesis is what it's called, you're going to get what's known as free radical formation. They're kind of like the sparks that come out when you have like a real fire and you're burning wood. And so it produces this oxidative stress. Well, zinc is actually needed in order to repair the DNA that becomes damaged through oxidative stress. Guys, this is why this is so important when you're talking about longevity, that you're actually taking care of your DNA and you're always healing and repairing that DNA. And that's why a lot of times there's certain things that you can take to protect the DNA, that you can make sure that that DNA, yes, when there's some kind of damage, that you're actually healing and repairing it. So we're talking about aging especially. And then finally, you actually need zinc for exercise performance. So here's what's interesting is that even when we have athletes, even at our gym, they're like, oh my goodness, like I've lost my wind, like I just can't catch my breath. This can actually be due to a deficiency of zinc. It can be a deficiency of zinc, it can be a deficiency of potassium. Yes, you might actually be anemic as well, but guys, you got to understand, just because you might be short of breath doesn't necessarily mean that you are anemic. There could be a lot of different reasons actually why. So zinc, this is just some of the functions, and this is actually just some of the functions that we actually know. So you guys understand that zinc is playing a role in diabetes, it's playing a role in osteoporosis, it's playing a role in the immune system, your ability to be able to fight off bacterial and viral infections. It's involved when you guys have problems with the skin, yes, even acne, yes, even loss of taste and smell, gastrointestinal system. It's involved with anti-aging, and yes, it's actually involved in becoming a better athlete or actually becoming stronger and more fit. So they're just that right there, you guys understand. There's so many functions of zinc, but when was the last time you actually thought about zinc? I might be zinc deficient, and I guarantee you probably have it, okay? So why did I lose my taste and smell then? Well, this was the reason why. You were already deficient in zinc. You already were. And all the infection did was it depleted it even more. So what the body had to do is actually just corral all of the available zinc and actually use it in order to be able to fight off the infection, yes, at the expense of not being able to rebuild the epithelium that's involved in taste and smell. Hopefully, guys, that makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. Well, people say, well, it's been 3 or 4 months and it still hasn't come back. Well, there might be 2 things that are actually going on. Number one, you still might be deficient, grossly deficient in zinc. And the other thing too is you may have become so zinc deficient that maybe you have some permanent damage to the taste buds and you have some permanent damage involved with your smell. So it may actually, yes, be permanent. Now, was it COVID's fault? No, it wasn't COVID's fault. COVID doesn't have a brain. It was that you were so depleted, your immune system was so weak, and it depleted it so much you didn't get it back up, in time. And so yes, you can actually create some cell damage as a result. Guys, you have to ask this question, because this always just like boggles my mind, okay? You take 1,000 people and 999 get an infection and they have the sniffles for 1 or 2 days, and 1 person dies from that same exact virus. Here's what we do in the United States. We say we need to actually punish everyone who actually didn't have any problem with the virus in order to protect that one. And I disagree. I disagree 100%, because what we need to do is then ask a question from a different perspective and say this. Well, if 999 did fine, what was the difference with that one person? Why were they weak? Why did they not recover well? And what can we do to support that one person? And what can we do in order to protect the other 999? So guys, it's not the virus. It's actually your body's resistance to the virus. And we can measure it. And you can measure it with full certainty, guys. This is why you can run a full immune panel on people. And you can look at all of the different type of immune system cells, guys. You guys ever heard of a neutrophil? Have you ever heard of macrophages? Have you ever heard of eosinophils? Have you ever heard of basophils? Have you ever heard of CD4 cells, CD8 cells, killer T cells, which are CD8 cells, B lymphocytes? Have you ever heard, or natural killer cells, have you ever heard of those? And why aren't we actually testing all those people to actually see if they can build a proper immune response to any kind of virus? Can I get an amen? Please give me a thumbs up, give me a like, because this is so true. Why are we blanketing healthcare for everyone versus actually saying it needs to be individualized, and we need to actually support the people who can't build an immune response and actually figure out why, and then help them to start to build a proper immune system response. So why did you guys lose your taste and smell? You were deficient in zinc. The infection, all it did was actually depleted and it exposed something that you were already deficient in. Hopefully that makes sense, guys, okay? So do you need more zinc? Now, guys, please don't run out and do the Dr. Oz thing. This is the Dr. Oz thing. So Dr. Oz goes on, his show, and he says, red rice yeast helps lower cholesterol. And then everyone says, that's easy. I guess to fix all my health problems, I just need to go to the health food store and buy a bunch of red rice yeast. Then he says it, and then for the next 3 weeks, there's no more red rice yeast at the health food store because everybody is still trying to do a this for that to try to take away their health condition. But guys, if you're zinc deficient, there's a lot of different reasons why. And many times it's a lot more complicated than just going down to the Walgreens or the CVS or to the Rite Aid or whatever it might be and just start taking some zinc for $4.95, okay? But how can you actually tell? Because again, remember guys, some of these things when it comes to actually looking at minerals, we actually guess and we can't actually test because it's not going to be in the blood, it's going to be intracellular, which you can't measure on an actual blood test. But you can see that the body with symptoms will actually give you some clues, okay? So I want you to think about it. Do you need more zinc? I'm probably going to say that yes, almost everyone needs zinc because I'm going to go over where you actually get the sources from, but then also why you could not be absorbing it very well. So do you get frequent infections? Yes, then you probably need more zinc. Do you actually suffer from a lot of systemic inflammation? Okay, what do I mean by systemic inflammation? I'm talking about inflammation everywhere. You can see this on some of your markers like your C-reactive protein, homocysteine. You can look at systemic inflammation from, a lot of different things. But I get bloating, I get puffy, my joints hurt, things like that. That can be a deficiency of zinc, and there's some other reasons why. Do you suffer from skin sores? Because remember, it helps to rebuild and regenerate the epithelium. So if I'm getting frequent skin sores, you might be zinc deficient. And remember, it's not just on the skin. It's the tongue. It's the nose. Are you getting things like cold sores in your mouth? Do you have something around the mouth that's just not healing? Am I getting weird sores in my skin? Do I suffer from something from some kind of gastrointestinal system, like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, or something like that? Also, it's linked to poor sexual performance. This, guys, is so true because zinc is an essential nutrient in the production of testosterone, okay? Also, do you suffer from high blood sugar, okay? Do you have poor exercise performance? So are you like literally exercising every single day? And this is actually what I tell athletes. Guys, if you're exercising every single day, you are basically taking your body and you're ramping up all of the body processes by exercise. It's not to say that exercise is bad, but basically you're taking, going 60 miles an hour all day and you're ramping it up to 120 miles an hour for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And so you're going to have an increased demand, you're going to have an increased need for more minerals because you're going to go through them a lot quicker. And then finally, do you need more zinc? And I will say this, if you are vegan, then you are going to need more zinc, all right? Just because you look at where the sources are actually coming from. If you're vegan, I'm going to guarantee you're going to become zinc deficient. Funny story, on my actual personal page, I posted a picture of my youngest son topping off a 10-ounce filet mignon. It's grass-fed, of course. And, and I said, I had said something just as a joke about us not being vegan. And man, it just, the vegans came out from I don't know where, but they were saying like, good luck with your son getting colon cancer and all of that stuff. And I'll tell you, I disagree. And do I think actually being vegan is bad? Not really, because people tell me, Dr. Nate, what nutrition plan do you actually recommend? I will tell you this. It depends. And I'll show you why it actually depends, because there are some people with such poor stomach acid production that they have a heck of a time trying to break down heavy proteins like beef or chicken or fish. So they go vegan and then everything starts to feel better. And this is why when someone says, well, I'm vegan, you need to be vegan too, I disagree. Because if you actually look at how well the body is breaking things down, you can actually recommend certain foods for a time being that's going to give their digestive system a little bit of break. So some people I have put mostly plant-based, and some people I've actually have said, you should be a hardcore carnivore. That would actually suit you best. So guys, there is never one diet that is going to work for everyone. And just because your cousin Sue, sorry if there's Sue out there, says that it worked for me, it's going to work for you, guys, you don't know that because you don't know how well the actual gastrointestinal system is even working. And you actually have to test for that as well, okay? Now, I want you to think of something, all right? I want you to think of who specifically in the United States, because I will tell you something, this affects about 2/3 of the United States, man, women, and children. 2/3 of the United States in varying degrees. So I want you to think, who gets frequent infections? Who is systemically inflamed? Who has a lot of sores on their skin, particularly in the feet and on the ankles and on the shins? Who has leaky gut symptoms? And usually if you have a lot of leaky gut symptoms, bloating and a lot of swelling and puffiness and redness all over the body. Who has very poor sexual performance? Who has high blood sugar? Who has very poor exercise performance? In fact, for these people, you tell them to get on a Concept 2 rower and row as fast as they can for 2 minutes. They'll last about 10 seconds and then they'll probably pass out or throw up, okay? Or, so take this one off, but look at all of those. And who did I just describe? And I'm seeing the answers right there. Who did I just describe? Type 2 diabetics. I just described type 2 diabetics. And type 2 diabetics are historically deficient in zinc. Well, you mean to tell me all I need to take, Dr. Nate, is zinc and all my problems are going away? Nope, I never said that. But you guys have to understand is that yes, type 2 diabetics are historically super deficient in zinc. Now let me ask you something. Guys, please share this right now because what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to connect a major dot. And the major dot is this. Who were the most impacted by COVID? Who were the most impacted? Who had the hardest time with COVID? Who had the hardest time with lung damage, loss of taste and smell, the inability to breathe, going into the hospital, not recovering well from it, and having symptoms for weeks, months, or maybe even years later? And it was the diabetics. Now, it's the people with type 2 diabetics. And there's a reason why, with their lifestyle, in order for them to become diabetic, that process will cause a massive, massive zinc deficiency. And this is why when we say, well, don't you care? Don't you care about those people? I wear a mask because I care about them. And I do care. In fact, I care so much that I want to prevent them from getting sick in the first place. And that's not by wearing a mask. That's by actually teaching them to become healthy. So the ones that were most impacted by COVID-19, and they'll say, yeah, it was the blood pressure people too. And yeah, that actually has to be because of actually being on some kind of ACE2 inhibitor or ACE2 type blood pressure medication. But really what it has to come down with is that type 2 diabetics, their immune systems, their zinc levels, things like that are absolutely destroyed and absolutely decimated. So yes, this is why someone doesn't have a comorbidity. Yes, they did fine from it. And it wasn't that the virus decided to attack someone more than the other, is that you all got the same infection. It was that one person's immune system actually had sufficiency to be able to handle it. So what do we need to do? Guys, we need to actually start figuring out how to start helping the type 2 diabetics, not with more drugs and more insulin or more insulin sensitizing type medications and things like that. We actually need to teach them how to take care of themselves and actually how to start reversing it on their own, which we do every single day in our office. So Dr. Nate, what are the best sources of zinc? Okay. Now, don't run out and just start taking a bunch of zinc, because I'm going to show you why it may not work for you. But what are the best sources? Well, this is why I actually said vegans are probably going to be really deficient when it comes to zinc, because by far and away, the best sources of zinc are going to be shellfish and red meat, okay? So shellfish will actually have the highest amount. In fact, when you compare things like oysters and the amount of zinc to actually at the bottom, things like legumes and nuts and seeds, it's about 20 times more, okay? So shellfish, particularly oysters, that's in fact why for a lot of people starting them out, we actually give them wellness zinc. And what wellness zinc is that it's actually basically a desiccated oyster, okay? That's all it is. Because we always want to give things coming from food sources actually attached to an amino acid and not attached to a salt, okay? Like a citrate, for example. You will absorb it way better than if you're taking things like zinc citrate or something like that. So shellfish, red meat, poultry, eggs, fish. Then as you actually go down and you go on the non-animal sources, things like legumes, which are going to be things like beans, nuts and seeds, mushrooms, so more plant-based, they are in fact going to be lower in zinc. So in order to get your zinc levels up, and if you are a vegan, you got to eat a lot of that stuff. And just remember, legumes can be very difficult for your body to be able to break down. Nuts and seeds can actually be very difficult for your gastrointestinal system to break down. And so this is why when we see people who like, well, I'm just going to eat a bunch of chia seeds because they're healthy, and we see those things show up on a food allergy test like crazy because they have a hard time actually breaking them down. So the best sources are going to be from animal sources, and the top one is going to be shellfish and especially oysters as well. So I will tell you, I take a ton of minerals, mainly because, number one, I guarantee you I don't get enough like as far as potassium and magnesium that are in fact can come from plant sources. I don't get enough. Like food is a lot of times the last thing on my mind, and usually by nighttime I'm like, oh, I gotta eat. So I don't eat that much obviously during the day. So I do take a lot of minerals. So yes, I take magnesium, and yes, I take potassium. Yes, I take zinc. In fact, right now I'm taking about 10 zinc pills every single day in order to get that up. So there's a lot of things that I take only because I'm willing to actually admit, you know what? I'm going to be deficient because my diet actually isn't perfect. So can you get enough of these nutrients from diet and nutrition? Yes, I would say that you could, but your nutrition is going to have to be at the forefront of your mind, okay? It really is. And you're going to need to eat a lot as well, okay? So how can you still be deficient? Well, Dr. Nate, I take zinc and I still lost my taste and smell. Well, let me tell you something, because I'm going to show you how the body works in the Swiss wash principle, okay? So how can you take zinc and you still be deficient? Well, you might have low stomach acid. And if you have low stomach acid, you need a high stomach acid to be able to actually break down what the zinc is attached to and absorb it as well. So so who has low stomach acid? Well, you got really bad low stomach acid if you're having acid reflux. But who has low stomach acid? I will say almost everyone. And that's not because their stomachs aren't working. It's because most of the time we're eating on the run and we're in a constant stress state 24 hours that's putting us in fight or flight. And when you go into fight or flight, because you have some kind of physical stressor, mental stressor, or some kind of chemical stressor, the more that you go into fight or flight, the less stomach acid you're going to produce, yet you still keep eating and you're not breaking down your foods and you're not absorbing the minerals. The other thing is too, if you have too many grains and you have too many legumes, that will actually inhibit the absorption. So again, vegans, you trying to get it from plant sources and you're trying to get it from grains, you're going to have to eat a lot more, but actually having so many grains and legumes as well is going to inhibit the absorption of it. You also can be deficient if you're taking it as a salt instead of what's known as a chelate. So a salt would be like potassium citrate, or it would be like zinc citrate. So it's actually attached to what's known as a negatively charged ion, which is what you're going to see in a lot of supplements, versus a chelate, which is actually attached to amino acid. And guess what source that's actually coming from? It's coming from an actual food source, animal source like oysters, okay? You can also become deficient if you dump a lot of high minerals all at once. So if you decide, I'm going to take my multi-mineral. So here's a great multi-mineral, that I got from Target or that I got from Costco. I'm just going to dump all these minerals, obviously, all at once. And by the way, when you guys take a bunch of minerals at once, especially on an empty stomach, you're not going to absorb it. And in fact, probably what you'll do is you'll probably make yourself very nauseous while you do that. So you could actually say, well, I'm taking all the zinc. I still haven't gotten my taste and smell back yet, but are you even absorbing the actual zinc? Are you actually taking enough? Are you taking the right type? Do you actually have enough stomach acid? Are you eating too many grains? By the way, who eats too many grains and legumes? And I'm going to tell you, yes, it is. It is the type 2 diabetes. Okay? So even this, guys, some of you may have to find an alternative source because you may have a food allergy to shellfish. You may have a food allergy to beef. I have a food allergy to eggs. I love eggs and I do not eat them. And in fact, if I do eat them, I will gain 10 pounds, not of fat, but actually of swelling and inflammation. You may have a food allergy to fish. You may have an allergy to beans. You may have an allergy to specific nuts and seeds. Yes, you can actually have a food allergy to specific mushrooms and things like that. So that's why it becomes a lot more difficult, okay? So you guys actually see that when what we are talking about is like we always want to just say, I'm deficient, take it. I'm deficient in this, take it. But you got to figure out why you can become so deficient, and this is why we always go back to the Swiss watch principle. So this is why just zinc, for example, I want you to think of this, just zinc, just one mineral, that if you're not getting enough or you're not absorbing it enough, think about what it can actually affect. It affects your endocrine production. Men, your testosterone production. It affects your immune system. It affects your integumentary system, or your skin, the largest organ in your body. It affects your respiratory and muscular system. It affects your digestive system. Guys, it affects every single system inside of the body. So then let me ask you a question. How can one medication truly fix everything and make your health problems go away? It doesn't. Just because a symptom goes away doesn't mean that your health condition was healed. All it meant was that it actually just took a hammer and beat it down and suppressed it to the point of not expressing itself. And that's all it did. Would you agree with me, guys, that healthcare today, the reason why it's not working is because we're taking a this for that approach? And yes, many of you too are taking a this for that approach when it comes to your nutrition, and you're calling it natural. You're calling it natural. And really all you're doing is that you still have a fire and you're still putting water on it. You're just putting a little bit more natural water on it. And we don't want to put out fires. What we want to figure out is, why did the fire start in the first place? And this is why, guys, when people look at their labs and they say, my labs are good, they're perfect, and I look at them and they've measured just some basic things, and I say, congratulations, you don't have any fires. But we don't know if there's something that's actually building, because a lot of times when you get your blood work and they look at it and it's normal, those things don't go off until you are very far down into a disease process. But do you guys want to wait until you have a disease, or do you want to see if there's any fires actually starting? Okay, so just think, what zinc affects is that, yes, it can affect every single system. And this is why you need to work with a doctor who knows how to put all of those pieces together. And I just described one mineral, zinc, and all of the different things and why you can't be absorbing it. And then, because if you can't absorb it, you better figure out why you're low in stomach acid. And now you actually have to figure out, is there multiple food allergies? Are you in fight or flight? Is this fight or flight? Are you neurological? Is this mental? Or is this chemical that's going on? And you have to start putting those pieces of the puzzle together. And so this is why, guys, you can become very frustrated if you guys are always trying to do your research. You're trying to figure things out on your own. And this is why we have people coming in and say, I'm trying to figure this out on my own. And they're taking 29 different things, yet they are still sick. Okay? I mean, yet they are still actually sick. So hopefully, guys, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate you guys who have actually shared that. And guys, I will tell you that whether it is type 2 diabetes, whether it's problems with weight loss resistance, whether it's problems with cancer, infertility, thyroid, arthritis, autoimmune conditions, hormone imbalances, whatever it is, the foundational thing is always the same, is that first you must actually start to reduce and find the sources of the inflammation. Because remember this, if I have a scab on my knee, it will get inflamed. Yes, you need that inflammation in order for the body to be able to heal. Yet what do we do all day? We are trying to do anti-inflammatories. And yes, you need acute inflammation, but when it becomes chronic, it becomes a devastating problem to the body. It becomes devastating. So rather than always be taking anti-inflammatories, rather than always be taking turmeric all the time and taking your fish oils, what you need to figure out is why you need all those things in the first place. Inflammation is the first step in order to begin healing and repairing the body. And here's the thing, if you have a scab on your leg and you keep falling down on the sidewalk every day and breaking that scab open, remember, you will always inflame it, you will irritate it, and it will never, ever heal. And you know what the answer is? First, stop falling down and causing the scab. And that's the first thing that we do for health restoration, is saying we need to find these sources of inflammation and start helping to take those stressors away, so that then and only then, once you take those stressors away, the body can start to repair and the body can start to heal. Your body won't repair and heal if it's always chronically inflamed. So coming up on Tuesday, June 29th, 6 o'clock here at our office at Exemplify Health Center. If you're watching right now in the Yorkville area, Yorkville, Aurora, Naperville, Geneva, Sandwich, Plano, Newark, Morris, doesn't matter. You guys are close enough to come to the office, and we're going to talk about literally how inflammation is the spark that is actually linked to nearly every single disease process. And who says so? Medical doctors do. And the difference is how we actually see it. Medical doctors want to suppress it. We actually want to find what's causing it. And that's where we start to differ. But everyone agrees that inflammation is the spark that leads to every single disease. And in fact, if you look at most medications, many of them are actually just anti-inflammatory and knocking out the immune system in order to try to take inflammation down. So if you guys go to our page, go to the top of this page, I pinned the post with the link to the inflammation talk. So you guys can register for that via our Eventbrite page, and then tickets for that are actually free, but we do have a limited number of people who can actually attend that as well. So make sure, guys, if you're from that area, get registered for that, because it will help you see a different perspective. And remember again, is that when things aren't working out, you need to start seeing things differently. And when you start seeing things differently, then and only then will you start to see that there are different solutions for your problem. So guys, I hope that makes a whole heck of a lot of sense for you. Thanks for joining me on this Saturday morning. And again, if you like this video, we always appreciate you guys sharing this video with other people. And I know maybe one person will actually find it and say, you know what, that really helped. And it may start the process with their health journey as well. So guys, be well, be blessed. We will talk to you guys soon. Next week, I'll be going live as well, and I may actually be talking about the most common skin conditions that people have and what they really mean. So like bumps on the back of the arm, what they really mean, dark circles around the neck, what they actually mean. If you are losing hair on your ankles, men, what that actually means as well, and how that can really signify there's a lot bigger problems that are actually taking place inside the body. All right, guys, be well, and we'll talk to you. I'll be going live every now and then during the week, but definitely we'll be doing it next Saturday at 10:30. Be well, guys. We'll talk to you soon.